Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Or should I put this down and talk like I normally do? Right?
No, because they can't hear you on Zoom if you do that.
So welcome to the quarterly neighborhood association meeting. I hope you all signed up for a lot of clubs and are renewing your memberships. If this is our annual meeting, we always want to remind people that our annual meeting is when we renew. So we go through September 30th and everything resets October 1. So, and we have a great group of people that have already renewed. So if you haven't, please do so. We appreciate the support. We try to do a lot of things for the neighborhood. I am Lou Raiders. It is my last meeting as your president. And I will stay on the board and in the neighborhood, but we are passing the baton a little bit later in this meeting. So we have a pretty packed agenda. And I know that Councilwoman Sawyer has been very busy because I was down at her office earlier today in another meeting, and we'll have updates for you on that. So I am going to try to get her in and out. But we do have a lot of other things to go over, so I hope you will stay. And right now I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman. Let's give her a big welcome.
Right. Well, thank you, Lou, and congratulations on your retirement.
I failed it many times.
And I will say, for those of you who have been here and participated a lot, you know how much Lou has done for this community over the last few years. So please, let's give her a really big round of applause. All right, it's great to see you. I will go really quickly. For those of you who don't have a presentation, and if you haven't had a chance to meet Owen, in the back, he is one of my senior aides who is in charge of the Cherry Creek neighborhood and sort of all of the neighborhoods east of Monaco that are in District 5. So when you call our office or email our office, chances are you're going to get Owen. And so we have a presentation. I will not go through the whole thing. I will spare you, but do kind of want to flag for you a couple of different things. We try and come and just sort of talk about what you care about and what we are doing about it, right? This is representative government, and that means that my job and our job in the District 5 office is to advocate for the things that matter to you. So I will tell you, right now, you should have received a, like probably Labor Day-ish, you should have received a postcard in the mail with our annual survey. If you haven't taken it, you have until December 31st to take it. We try and give a lot of time. It really is important to us. If you could fill that out, it just takes a couple of minutes as a survey monkey, but it tells us what you care about. It tells us what you're thinking about parks, what you're thinking about crime and safety, what you're thinking about what you're prioritizing, and that helps us prioritize. So in this presentation, there's a link and a QR code and all the stuff so that you can get to it if you missed that in your mail. But you've got another month and a half to take care of it and do it. We would really appreciate it if you do. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is why I asked you to fill out our annual survey, because we actually use this data in our office to create our work plan. So this is what you told us last year as residents. Over 2,000 residents of District 5 took this survey. And we know what your most important priorities are, right? Crime and safety, traffic and mobility, infrastructure, and homelessness were the most popular responses. So that's great, because that tells us what we need to do in order to advocate best for you down at the council office. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe yes.
All right. So some District 5 highlights. You can take a look at this. You can see some of the things that we are doing to address the things you care about, including traffic, mobility, infrastructure, crime and safety, and homelessness. Next slide, please. I always like to put this slide in because we get so many comments from people that are like, you did this, that was even thing. That is not what City Council does in the City of Denver. So the City of Denver is what's called a strong mayor form of government. That means that all of our city agencies report to the mayor's office. They do not report to City Council. We do not direct staff, ever. We make the laws for the City of Denver, we oversee the budget, etc. But this is really important because what that means is that we can help you advocate for the things that matter to you, but we can't tell staff that they have to do it. So we're here to help. That does not, sometimes you're not going to get the answer that you want to hear from our office, and we are sorry about that, and we get it. But that is the way the government of the city county of Denver is set up. Next slide, please. So again, just a little information on what city council does. Next slide, please.
Trying to get that out the middle, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah.
So what we did in our presentation was really kind of point out to you so the top three things: crime and safety, traffic and mobility safety, and homelessness. What we have been working on in the District 5 office to address those top three concerns in the last year. So you can take a look at some of the different things in community safety. One of the things I will flag for you is that the city has just started using license plate reader technology. This is a very cool technology that is a really good balance between civil liberties and crime prevention, and it really helps fill the gap between a lack of police officers being able to be out in the community. So what it does, it takes pictures of license plate as you drive past the reader. There's a database on the back end that flags if that car is stolen, if that car is suspected in a crime, etc. And what that allows, and then it pings the police. So the police know where the car is, that the car is attached to some sort of crime, and then they can go and get it, stop it, talk to the people, ask questions, recover a stolen vehicle, etc. So the number we have up here is in 4 months, the police have made 46 arrests using this technology. It's actually more than that. In 6 months, we are now over 100 arrests using this, it's called LPR technology. It's really great resource. It's really exciting. And I have to say, I'm really proud to have been one of the council members who piloted it in our district. So this is really addressing that kind of crime and safety concern of yours. Next slide, please. Wanted to just talk to you, give you some crime statistics. So if you don't know, lots of people don't know this, you can actually go look at the crime statistics for your neighborhood and all neighborhoods in Denver. Crime is down overall across the city by 8.5%. It's a little bit up in Cherry Creek. And you can look at the crime statistics and kind of see why, right? Now, part of that is because if crime is relatively low in your neighborhood to begin with, one additional crime brings up the average a lot. But take a look at it. It's worth taking a look into seeing what kinds of, what crime is happening in your neighborhood and what it looks like. Next slide, please. Also want to flag for you 2 programs that we've been piloting with the Denver Police Department in the District 5 office that are really great programs. The first one is called Denver Track. The second is called 529 Garage. The only difference between the 2 programs is Denver Track is run by the city of Denver. 529 Garage is a private organization. Denver Track is for cars. 529 Garage is for bikes. You can register your car and you can register your bike. And when you do that, if your car or your bike is stolen, you can immediately call the police department and they will turn on whatever tracking devices in your car. If you have like an OnStar, you have what are those things, the AirTags? Is that the thing? Technology is like not my jam, you guys. But so if you have one of those, they can turn it on, they can track it, and they can get your car right then and there. So this has been a very successful program. There are a few thousand users at this point. And there was one car that was stolen and then they signed up for Denver Track. Other than that, every car that has been signed up for Denver Track, not one of them has been stolen. So this is a really great program. Yeah, I have to I don't want to mislead you. Okay, next slide, please. So then we talk a little bit about traffic safety improvements. A number of the different things that we have been doing to take a look at traffic and mobility safety in our community. Next slide, please. And then just some updates on housing and homelessness and what we've been doing to address that as well. Next slide. Want to talk about this one. So as you know, Cherry Creek West rezoning went through, was approved. They're in the site development phase now. I'm happy to talk about that a little bit more. Lou is going to give you the parking update. So I will not give you the parking update, but it's really exciting. Talking just a little bit about the election, you should have received your ballots by now. They are 6 pages long. Ballots are 3 pages front and back. There is a lot on, this is the longest ballot in Denver's history. There are state level initiatives, there are city level initiatives. I cannot tell you how I feel about any of them while I'm standing up here in front of you wearing this badge. But I will say, please know what you're voting for. Please know what you are voting for. And that leads me to the conversation about sidewalks, because when I say please know what you're voting for, our sidewalk fee was voted on by the voters in 2022. The sidewalk fee, as it was written, so it was not referred by city council. No one came to the city and said, hey guys, can we like do something about the sidewalk fee? It was written by a group of advocates. It was unimplementable, but it was approved by the voters anyway, which means we have to implement it. So it's been a 3-year process that we have been working to try and figure out how to take an unimplementable law and make it implementable. It is going to start in January of 2025. So for the vast majority of homeowners, you will get a $150 fee per year that goes to pay for sidewalks. So that totals about $40 million across the city per year to invest in our sidewalk infrastructure. You will see the first thing they're going to do is fix broken sidewalks that already exist, and then they will start to roll out the new sidewalk program. If you are one of those residents who lives in a neighborhood or an HOA where your HOA documents say no sidewalks, that is a conversation for your lawyer and the city attorney. It's not for me. But I will say that we have that issue in several neighborhoods in District 5. Next slide, please. We get a lot of questions in my office about like, how can we help? What can we do? And I will say, one of the biggest things you can do is be a good neighbor. This is something we all got out of the habit of doing during COVID, right? If your neighbor is in the mountains for the weekend, bring in their trash can so it doesn't look like they're out of town, right? That makes them a target for someone who might be driving by and looking for a house to break into because they know that the owners aren't there. If your neighbors have packages on their front porch and you know that they're not going to be home until 6 o'clock at night because they work and it's 11 o'clock in the morning, take their packages in. Let's not have porch thieves stealing your packages, right? Just kind of simple things like that. I would also say, if you haven't had an opportunity to interact with our District 3 Police Department, please do. They are fantastic. So we have, I'm just going to brag here for a minute, the best police district in the entire city in Police District 3. But they do things like hold a monthly meeting where you can go and you can learn about crime statistics and you can get neighborhood watch training and business watch training and all of these different things. Really great. If you haven't, the District 3 police station, the Police District 3 police station is actually down on University and I-25. So you can stop in there, you can look on their website. They have a ton of community engagement opportunities. They do coffee with the cops once a month on a Wednesday morning. I highly recommend that you engage with them and get to know them. They're fantastic and they work really, really hard for us. Next slide, please. We also get a lot of questions about like, when do I call 911? When do I call 311? I'm so confused. And I will tell you, this is a true story that happened a couple of weeks ago. So I woke up on a Sunday morning, my friend Laura texted me and she was like, what was all those gunshots at 4:30 in the morning? And my response was, what gunshots? And her response was, everybody in the neighborhood is talking about it. And I said, did you call 911? And she said, no. And I said, if you didn't call 911, the police don't know about it. They have no information about it. And I can't tell you anything about what happened with those gunshots at 4:30 in the morning. So please do not feel like you are inconveniencing our first responders or anything like that. Our 911 operators are trained to determine like what kind of response is necessary. But if you don't call 911 when there's a crime in progress, that is street racing, that is gunshots, that is someone breaking into a car, that is, any of those different kinds of things, they won't know about it. And then they can't help. So I just, as a reminder, because it literally happened to me last week with my friend who was like, what happened with the gunshots at 4:30 in the morning? I don't know, because no one called 911. So please call 911. You can also file a police report online. So if you come to your car and and in the morning and the window has been smashed in and your sunglasses have been taken, you can file that police report online. You don't have to wait for the police department to come. That is very worthwhile. It's still included in the crime statistics. They still can take a look at all of the information, fill out a report for your insurance, all of that kind of stuff. But you can do it online, so you don't have to inconvenience yourself in that way. So flagging that for you guys as well. Next slide, please. Okay, the last thing, 311 Thursdays. We are trying, so the city is a data-based organization. We base our decisions on data. And where does that data come from? It comes from 311. So in the same way, I say to you, please call 911 when a crime is in progress. I'm going to say to you, please call 311 or use Sunny the chatbot or report it online. And report things that are wrong. If there are trees blocking a stop sign and you can't see the stop sign, if there's a pothole, if your trash did not get picked up, if there are, any number of those kind of city service things, please report it to 311. Because when we reach out to, Parks and Rec Forestry and we ask them to cut back trees, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go look and see how many complaints they received at 311 about that location. And if there aren't any, or if there's like one, they're not going to come and cut that tree because they're not going to think it's that big of a deal, right? Because there might be a tree on the other side of the city that got 110 complaints on it. They're going to go use those resources to cut down that tree where there are more complaints. So please use 311. We just call it 311 Thursdays. Like every Thursday, report something. Please, everyone, report something every Thursday. I know. Well, all you want is the city staff just cringe. They crying a little inside. All right, next slide, please. Here's the QR code and the link to our annual survey. As you can see, this is data we actually use to advocate for you. We always post on our website the results of the entire survey, so you can take a look at it. In fact, if you go to our website, you will find everything we're doing, because everything we do is horrible, and so why make it for it? You can just go ahead and look on our website at what's going on. I think that's it. Next slide, please. Last slide. In case you want to contact us, please do. That's what we're here for. Yes, we make all the laws for the city of Denver and oversee the budget, but we're also a customer service agency, right? We were elected to represent you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Don't feel like you are inconveniencing us. You aren't. And with that, I will take questions. Yes.
So traffic was a big issue based on the survey last year. Mm-hmm. It's still a big issue as far as I'm concerned this year. And I see in your PowerPoint that you've been doing a couple of things to address traffic issues, but I didn't see anything specific to Cherry Creek North. As far as I'm concerned, there's two issues. There's construction traffic, where trucks at 6 a.m. in the morning start backing up. We've had literally 20 trucks along 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue, 6 a.m. in the morning. And then the other issue is regular traffic, people cutting through from Colorado Boulevard to University and speeding, and it's all hours of the day.
Yeah, so for those of you online, in case you didn't get a chance to hear the beginning of that question, it was a question basically of saying, what is the traffic, what is going on with the traffic in Cherry Creek and how are we helping? It's a great question. We actually completed a traffic management plan for the entire Cherry Creek statistical neighborhood last year. It's called Denver Moves Cherry Creek. There are very specific projects identified in there. There are very specific locations, cross streets, all of those different things identified in that plan. You can look at them on our website if you want to see what they are. I want to say there's something like 307 specific projects that are listed in there. And so now the city's job is to go find the money to construct those, traffic calming measures and to make those kinds of additional changes to turn lanes and all of those different kinds of things. Yeah.
Wait, let's stop again.
Okay, yeah, great.
So maybe something's happening that I don't know about, but why can we not get green yard waste bins to...
Yeah, compost bins. Yeah.
Yes. Why can't we get them?
So great question. For those of you who are online, the question was, where are our compost bins? I'm going to be real straight with you. Dottie lied to City Council about what their capacity to build out our composting program was. And based on that, I'm not going to call it misinformation. I'm going to call it a lie because it was lies. So, you were supposed to have your compost bin by now. You in Cherry Creek are in Trash District 6. I know it gets very confusing. It's Council District 5, Police District 3, Trash District 6. You're in Trash District 6, that those are coming. Full rollout should be done by the end of 2025. The reason that Dottie has given us for why they are not doing the rollout in trash district 6 and 7, which is council district 5 now, is because we already have so many people who chose to compost and pay for the compost originally, that there are other places in the city where there's almost no compost bins at all. So they started with those locations. We have so many opt-in people who already have compost bins that we're going to be the last ones to get our bins. So they'll come in by the end of 2025. And I will tell you right now, I can see the look on your face and I feel exactly the same way. Yeah, it's a long time. It's ridiculous. It's terrible. Trust me. They've heard from us about it. Yeah. But I mean, I hear you, and I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you. They will get your comments good by the end. Yeah, next question.
2 questions. First is, how does the city prioritize sidewalks that will be repaired? And the second question is, I know Luke's not talking about parking, but it seems like it doesn't matter what you do parking as long as you don't enforce it. And enforcement's terrible.
Great. Okay, so for those of you watching online, I don't know if you can hear the questions or not, so I'm just going to repeat them just in case. So first question was, how is the city prioritizing sidewalks? The answer to that is, that's a great question. I don't know. So the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is in charge of our sidewalk program that was created by the voters. We passed, City Council passed the ordinance to make all the changes to make the program actually implementable 3 weeks ago. So we know that the date is January 1st, 2025, when you will start to receive your $150 per home bill for the sidewalk fee, and they will start collecting those dollars. As those dollars are starting to accrue over 2025, the first thing Dottie is going to do is create a sidewalk prioritization schedule. So they're going to assess every sidewalk in the city and county of Denver, whether it is missing entirely, whether it is built in but too small, or whether it is the right size but needs repair. And then they will prioritize those. So that work isn't done yet, but it's a great question and it's coming. The second question was parking here. So Lou is going to tell you a little bit about our exciting update when it comes to that. But the comment that went along with that was, it's not great if enforcement doesn't happen. I will tell you right now, Cherry Creek has the largest right-of-way enforcement population in the entire city. So we get the most right-of-way enforcement of anyone in the city and county of Denver. So I appreciate that you say that it's terrible. We are the best in the entire city. And I will tell you why. So the city has, our HR department has like 2 lists that they own. The 2 lists that they kind of run are hard to fill positions and hard to keep positions. Dottie right-of-way inspectors fall into both of those categories. That is a job that stinks. People are not nice to you, you don't get paid very much, you're in your car all day long. And so it's very hard for the city to hire right-of-way inspectors. And that's one of the things. So we can talk about the budget a little bit more, but I would just, spoiler alert, $40 million in the hole for 2025 in the city budget. And that means that we're on a hiring freeze. The only positions that City Council has requested to be filled are the Dottie right-of-way enforcement positions and a couple of positions in home inspections in our Department of Public Health and Environment. So I hear you that you say that it stinks, and I understand why. This is a staffing issue, and also, it's just an impossible job to keep people and people don't want it. Next question. Over, yes, right there.
And the license plate reader technology be used to identify speeding automobiles?
No. So the question was, can license plate reader technology be identify speeding automobiles? And the answer to that is no. It does not assess speed of any kind. It just takes a picture of the plate, checks it in the database in the back to see if it's been flagged as a stolen vehicle or attached to a crime. It also does not take pictures of people, right? It only takes a picture of the vehicle license.
A follow-up comment. One of the street signs on Joseph Street, I was there when the vehicle was 65 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour. I did go down to District 3 to see how it should be handled or what I could do. I spoke to a traffic cop on the beat for 25 years, and he said, forget it, there's no way we can follow up on that. So what do we do? You mentioned speeding vehicles, call 911. 911. 911.
Street racing is a crime in progress and you should call 911. Street racing. Speeding vehicles are speeding vehicles. And I will tell you, part of the challenge with our police department is that because we have, we are staffing up, we are doing a better job. We are at 94% staffing in our 911 operators, 99% staffing in our fire department. And I think we are now in the 85% staffing range when it comes to our police officers, which is great because we were down at like 60% in 2020. So as we staff up more, we'll be able to do more traffic enforcement. But at the end of the day, the traffic enforcement is the piece that has fallen through the cracks because we need those officers to be doing, you know, detective work, investigation work, etc. So what can we do about that? There are different technologies that we can use to kind of fill that gap. And there are things like the speed vans, right? They take your picture and give you a ticket. So until last year, there was a state law that did not allow us to put speed vans anywhere except for next to parks and school zones. And there had to be a police officer sitting in the vehicle at all times in order for the tickets to happen. This is dumb. The state law changed last year, which is good. So now officers do not have to sit in the vehicle the whole time, and there are different locations where they can be put around the city. So one of the other budget amendments the City Council has requested of the mayor in the 2025 budget is to fix that program to make it so that we have more speed vans and we have them in more locations to help kind of fill the gap with the speeding. But I will say, at the end of the day, like the number of people I see run stop signs, I just live down 3rd on the other side of Colorado, the number of people I see run stop signs is terrifying. And there is no city agency on the planet that can make people behave. Like there has to be a level of self-agency here where you stop at a stop sign because you know you're supposed to stop at a stop sign. And because there might be a kid crossing the street or a biker coming or any of those different things, right? So I feel you, and there are things we're doing to work on it, but I also want to really stress to you guys as a community, you've got to follow, you have to take the responsibility of following the laws on yourself. Next question. Okay.
I'm curious about what you're saying about traffic in Cherry Creek. I'm originally from California. I've only lived here for 5 years. I lived in an area that was like Cherry Creek. It was very walkable. If you put a police officer out on every other corner, and those guys that are cutting through or they're speeding find out about it, we're not going to have a problem anymore.
Thank you.
I understand that Denver doesn't have the police officers like a lot of other cities do. But you know what? If you just do it, if you do it for a month, we won't have a problem.
Great. Thank you for that feedback. Next question.
You're welcome.
Please speak into the microphone. The people on Zoom cannot hear you if you don't.
Go ahead.
I heard today from talking to a real estate person that Cherry Creek West area is going to be developed. To get it ready is going to cost $100 million. You, as a member of the city council, what is your approach or the city council's approach to the traffic that's going to be at that intersection of University and Spear or First Avenue? What is the city's approach to that, or is it just wait and see and we'll sit on our hands?
Yeah, so can I ask a specific question of you? Are you talking about during the construction or are you talking about when it's built? After it's built. Yeah, so great. So the question was traffic around the Cherry Creek West area. And that's a great question. So what we as a city require is that there be a traffic study that is done at several different phases of the development, right?
You do it, prepare yourself before.
The question was, why don't you prepare yourself before the development? It's a great question for the mayor's office. The development goes through our community planning and development department. They have very specific rules around traffic studies, and that's their rule. So, right. So there was a traffic study done before the rezoning. There are traffic studies that are done kind of at certain points based on the development. So what's going on with Cherry Creek West is the rezoning has been approved. Your neighborhood association did an amazing job of negotiating with the developer to ensure that there are very specific requirements and things that happen on that site. I do have to give the developer a lot of credit. They were very open to a lot of those different things that that you all as residents asked for. One of those things was traffic mitigation strategies. So there are a number of different traffic mitigation strategies that they have to both build into their Cherry Creek West development over the next 10 years as it develops, right? This is not like 7 buildings are going up overnight. It's going to take a decade for this to build out, which means that at certain stopping points over the course of that build out, there are different traffic studies that are required and different kind of traffic mitigation strategies that they are already required to have considered and pay for themselves.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take one more question.
All right, one more.
We'll let the council make up.
Great.
All right, so we bought our house on the day of lockdown. We lived right off Colorado and we thought, wow, what a big and quiet street. And since then, things are changing slightly. And
do you live on the corner of 4th and Colorado?
no.
Wasn't you and your wife that was sitting out there when my staff and I were cleaning the bus stop right in front of your house last weekend? Okay.
This is 6 in Colorado,
okay.
Further north. But now obviously there's like boom cars, there's motorcycles, there's people flooring, there's people in ATVs, there's people riding really on like dirt bikes. I'm just, is there any recourse or any way to deal with any of this noise? Or
no, I mean, unfortunately, Colorado Boulevard is a major state highway, and you know, and we do have traffic mitigation strategies on sticks to help slow the traffic there, right? So not only did they just redo the entire intersection at 6th and Garfield, just to the west of you, to help slow traffic, but also that is one of the most common locations for a traffic speed radar gun, where they give tickets. So, you know, they're doing the best we can, but Colorado Boulevard is Colorado Boulevard. And I'm sure that it was lovely for the year, but when people were all staying at home doing absolutely nothing, and I'm sorry that it is very loud now, but you know, it's Colorado Boulevard. Any other questions?
Okay, let's thank her very much for being here. We are still going to talk about you, so we are going to talk about you. Okay, we'll tattle on you, say. But we are very, very, very lucky to have her because she's been such a great advocate. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but let's give her a round of applause.
You guys have an amazing.
Thank you for being here, and good night.
Good night.
Okay, folks, thank you. I know that even these questions bring up some issues that I'm going to cover a little bit for you tonight. Let's start with the whole issue about crime. So we've gotten several notices of some things happening, and we want to remind everybody that if you do see something in process, call 911. If you want to take the course, which we've had several times here on Neighborhood Watch, let's do it again. You can always sign up the district and go there. Occasionally we've had them come into the neighborhood. We have this relationship with the church up on 6th, and so we have a place to hold some of those things. So if people want to engage in that, how many people have taken that course? It's great. So there aren't not a lot of hands that went up. That is a really great way for you to, and you get a little sign that says Neighborhood Watch in your yard. But it is a good way to understand what the police see, hear, do, and how they do it. So if folks are interested, let's have another one of those. It's also kind of fun because you get together with a bunch of neighbors and then you go out and have a beer and drive home. Just kidding. But I do want to say that this time of year, it gets dark earlier, right? People are starting their holiday shopping. There are a lot of events in the fall. So you have to be aware of your surroundings.
And there's always a little uptick in those kinds of crimes where people steal handbags or those kinds of things. The bid has increased their security. They pay a lot of money for security right now. Both those people that you can see and those people that are undercover. And they're putting more and more cameras. But you have to remember when you walk home from that restaurant, be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that if something doesn't feel right, you go back into one of the stores and ask for somebody to escort you home from the bid. If the security people are still around, let them know. So I just want to raise that awareness, okay? Because it's just that time of year. And because it's a high concern for a lot of residents, watch out for your residents. Keep your lights on, both in the alley. LEDs are inexpensive. Let's keep the lights on in our alleys. Let's keep our front porch lights on. Make sure that when your landscape lighting goes off at like 9 o'clock, maybe change it to 1 o'clock. And then keep your porch light on. The more light, the safer we all are. Okay? So that's one thing. I also wanted to just mention too, we're going to get to construction traffic in a little bit, but I wanted to give a shout out to all the folks that were out here at the tables, and especially to Dick Cohen, who has been, along with his bride Terry, is she still here? Yeah, she's here. Have helped organize these clubs. They're terrific ways to meet people and to spend time with your neighbors, getting to know your neighbors. And the tighter neighborhood we are, the better, the safer, the more fun, just the better life will be in this neighborhood. So sign up for some clubs. And if there are still sheets that are going to be out there, take a look at them. And for those of you participating at home, you can go on the website, look over the clubs, see if there's anything of interest, contact the person that is heading up that club, and get involved. And it's just another great way. If you've got more ideas for clubs, I think we have a new men's book club that I know several people that are in, and they're just having a blast. And all the women in my book club have been together for 35 years. And what took them so long? Right? So there are a lot of fun things that maybe can expand your horizon a little bit, and the breadth of your friendships in the neighborhood. Also, thanks to Dick, we have an upcoming part of our lecture series for supporting members. And this is a fun one, especially fun for October. So it's at a cemetery. So did you know that there are 13 professional baseball players buried at Fairmont Cemetery? So also a month of baseball, right? So Dave Wallach, a retired physician and Cherry Creek North resident, will lead a driving tour of the grave sites and tell you about these players. This will be a driving tour because the grave sites are spread throughout the cemetery, and if you've been by there, you know how big it is. So watch for announcements on that. It should be a lot of fun. And you know, it's October, so who knows how many ghosts will follow you home. So watch for that. And Dick, thank you very much for that. I think that's a really fun thing to have. I hope all of you got our newsletter, fun facts in our newsletter, and sad passing of Nancelia Jackson, who was the great dam of Cherry Creek. She lived on Garfield. Her family settled this part of the city. So we all extend our deepest sympathies to the Jacksons. Ingrid Glancy, a longtime board member, has been honored. There's a story about her. She is stepping down from the board at this point, and we just want everyone to know how much she contributed to making CCNNA what it is today. So take a look, read stories. If you've got ideas, please let us know. And I'm going to move on to a couple of the key items that we said we would give you updates about this evening. The first thing I think we're going to talk about is Cherry Creek West. So many of you have been listening to me talk about this for 2.5, 3 years. We have followed this. We've worked with the developer.
As a retired real estate finance lawyer, I've worked on lots of big, huge developments in my career, and was able to work with this developer and other teams of people on our board, our zoning committee, the zoning committees of Cherry Creek East, Country Club, which is the neighborhood immediately west, Hilltop to the east, and then various other neighbors who participated in these citizen listening groups all through the Cherry Creek Steering Committee. So the Steering Committee is an association of other organizations, and we meet every month. I upload all of the video. I'm chair of the Steering Committee. I upload all of those videos to the Cherry Creek North neighborhood website so you can watch them, but it does have a slightly different reach. It is really focused on trying to make sure that the area RNOs, registered neighborhood organizations, are watching what's happening in this area, because frankly, the city may not be watching as closely on the issues we think are important, because the city has a lot of different problems, right? And these are all fairly wealthy neighborhoods. So through the steering committee, we try to share the information, and we try to advocate for kinds of changes and kinds of mitigation strategies that we can to move these large developments, and frankly, the maturing of this area. Again, one of the largest tax bases for the city, right behind the airport. So we're not going to see growth slow. So we have to manage it. We have to make sure you're aware of it. And it's not just in the business district or at the Cherry Creek West site, which is part of the Buell Foundation ground lease property. So that whole mall area is. But it's also the CMX5 areas that are immediately east of the business improvement district. That's where you're seeing the new apartment building, which is going up on Cook Street, which is a Mill Creek residential building, much like Madeira 1. This will be Madeira Cook Street. Then there's the 5 stories building at the corner of 2nd and Adams. That is one that we worked with the developer. They had to rezone a tiny little slice of that. So we were able to work on a development agreement where the developer made lots of agreements for the benefit of the neighborhood. Often these are uses by right. So what that means is that when a developer files a site development plan because they're going to build something in Cherry Creek North, let's say in the bid, it's already zoned. So if it's already zoned for 8 stories, they don't have to come and ask us. We don't have any leverage. But because we keep good relationships with these developers, and because, frankly, through the steering committee, and we have someone in planning, Olga, who is always advocating for us, we know about it. When the Cherry Creek Mall was they're going to be putting in 5 charging stations on the east side of the mall. We got involved because Olga wanted us to look at that and say, yeah, let's take a look at that landscaping. What are those really going to look like? How can we hide them better? Because that's and there were probably 6 of us that spent hours walking, taking pictures. Can we wrap those Excel boxes so that they look more attractive? Can we plant it differently? We brought Chris Dunn, a very well-known landscape architect who was formerly on the steering committee, back in and said, Chris, will you come and help us on this? And he did. And the mall listened, and Electrify America is the company putting them in. They said, this is the longest process we've ever had to go through throughout the country. And we said, well, it's going to be the best one because people cared enough to sit at the table, look at the plans, ask the questions, and think about what this is going to do for our neighborhood. So we all participate in this because what we try to do is to bring this information to you. We've got a fairly new website, and there is a lot of information there. I know we need to add a few things and update a few things, but the information I'm going to go through on Cherry Creek West is up on the website. And so let's turn to that right now. So this is the letter that we submitted from the Cherry Creek Steering Committee. on behalf of the neighborhoods that I just mentioned. They're registered neighborhood organizations. And if we could scroll through a little bit, this was our approval letter to City Council. And this is up on our website. Just go a little bit further. There, stop. So I want to talk about the DCBA, that stands for the Developer and Community Benefit Agreement that we reached with this developer. A copy of this is, I mean, we'll scroll through it really quickly, but it's on the website. You can read it. You can look at it. You can look at everything that's in there. But in summary, what the zoning documents did not include were the details, frankly, many of which were the details they presented to you when they brought this out. And when we looked at the actual zoning documents, the number of buildings, unlimited. Wait a minute. Height was an issue, right? So none of the things that they were telling us were codified in their actual zoning documents. So it was necessary for us, taking concerns we heard from all of you, residents in the country club, and frankly, all the ones that we all know about. Traffic, height, density, we want open space, those kinds of the connections to the creek, those things were not really in there. So this is what we had to do. And the Developer Community Benefit Agreement does that in large part. So I'll just show you. And again, these materials are on the website. Take a look at them. But number one, they confirmed that there will be only 7 buildings with an average height of not more than 10.5 stories. There are, and when we talk about stories, the zoning code in Denver is a little wonky in that you talk about stories and height both. So sometimes for like a commercial building, the floor plates are higher. You have less stories and the same amount of height for commercial. So, and then on the residential side, because of affordable housing, you can get more stories if you do more affordable housing. And that, of course, is a mantra of the city right now, build affordable housing. Number 2, the uses were not specified. And I think, hopefully some of you were at the last meeting where I went through the fact that density does not drive traffic as much as uses drive traffic. Residential uses have less traffic impact. Why? A lot of people work from home. A lot of people live and work in the area. That's called internal capture on a transit basis because they're not using their car because they can reach the grocery store, the tailor, those things so they're not using their car so much. So statistically, residential uses are the least impactful from traffic perspective. What are the most? Think about the kinds of commercial uses that really drive traffic. You see health building. You go there for 20 minutes, you get your shot, you leave. In, out, all day long. In, out, all day long. Right? Add hundreds of doctors, PAs, all of that. It's a lot of traffic. So what we got them to agree, because this is not in the code at all, but it just kind of common sense, especially if you've lived in that real estate development world. We asked them not to do the medical office building use on that site. And that's a tough one because there's a lot of need and want for that, but it drives traffic. So they have agreed, unless they come back to us and say, there's nobody else that we can rent this space to. And, frankly, there's a real need for this. We can talk about it. Right now, we hold the cards on that. They've agreed no medical office. So the kinds of uses you're going to see are also less impactful from a traffic perspective. They're going to be the higher end office uses that you're seeing going in the bid now. High end financial users, oil and gas companies. You've got family offices. You've got foundation buildings. Those are they're not call centers, right? You don't have tons and tons of people who occupy those buildings. Frankly, the offices are pretty big. So our goal was to try to work with the developer, not to control their development. It's their money, not ours. It's their risk, it's not ours. But we have to live with the impact. So they were willing to sit down and be reasonable and hear us on those kinds of issues. So the other number two, we wanted residential. We could not necessarily get them to say we'll do 4 residential buildings, even though that's what they showed, because they don't know what that risk profile is going to look like. And they couldn't get that through their investors and their lenders and everything. But they did agree, because what we said is we need affordable housing here in our neighborhood, so that maybe a teacher who works here can live within a couple blocks of where she works. So they agreed to do 99 units in the neighborhood. I talked about medical office use. Number 4, 37% open space requirement. They have to build that into their site. They've represented it to us. It was about 40% at one point. City keeps pushing their setbacks here and there, and the city really wants it to look like a street grid. So we ended up at a 37%. The green space is public space. They can't close that. They'll have to monitor it. They're going to have, adequate security and landscaping and probably event planning, sort of like Fillmore, if you can remember a lot of the things on Fillmore. They're going to put in a lot of infrastructure for public use. Segregated bike lanes. Now, why is that important? Because if you're walking down the street and a bike is next to you and you have your dog, and all of a sudden it's a very uncomfortable situation. So let's get a segregated bike lane, get the bikes in there, and when you have a segregated bike lane, scooters have to go there. So let's protect the pedestrians and those who want to just walk and enjoy and not have somebody whizzing by. So let's get the bikes away from the pedestrians. So those will be separated on this project, connecting to the creek and along First, so that we'll have more pedestrian safety. Let's see, parking requirements. They're agreeing to a CMX 12. The city and the state are pushing for parking maximums. You're gonna hear about it because it's gonna be pushed on legislatively. And what we said to this developer is, oh, no. We would rather have you do more parking than less. And the mantra from all the transit people, and I sit on the board of Transportation Solutions, and they shake their finger at me and say, no, that's not the way you're supposed to think about this. Because if you build it, they will come. If you build more parking, more single occupancy vehicles will come and park in those spaces, period. Statistically, that may be correct. What we said to this developer is, in Cherry Creek, you're not going to have people getting out of their cars. For the most part, the people who can walk. But there are a lot of people who still, we still drive our car 4 blocks to get our groceries. Why? Because I can't carry that many groceries home, right? So we've at least gotten them to agree that they're going to unbundle their parking, more available spaces, and they're not going to agree to parking maximums. Now, the city and the state may, with a signature, override all that and say, thou shalt have parking maximums. We can't do anything about that. If regulatory laws come down that force that, we can't do anything. But until then, this is our agreement, and they agreed to that. The developer agreed to continue working with Transportation Solutions to transport. That's a transit management. Did any of you guys see Stuart Anderson speak about transit management associations? If you didn't, you should go back and watch that because it's incredibly educational. It's on the YouTube channel. It was last month or last quarter, I believe. A lot of good information about that. And when the developer works with the Transit Management Association, they figure out ways to lessen traffic impacts. So requiring, for example, office buildings to use transit passes. Once we get a better bus service, if people can use the bus, give them free passes so they don't drive their car. They don't want to pay for parking in Cherry Creek anyway. Let's, get them on buses out of the single occupancy vehicle. So those tools will be implemented immediately. They're not even required to do that. So they agreed to be the pilot. Under the ordinance, they don't have to implement a plan until certificate of occupancy after building. They agreed to do it upfront as a pilot for a large development. So they won't even, so to the question of you ought to be thinking about it now, we made them agree to think about it now. So there's one step of this project that will be taken without a constant thought about traffic management. The dialogue with the steering committee and then through the steering committee, all of us, and probably because we'll ask them to come from time to time and present directly, they will continue this presentation to the neighborhood. We are partners with them. We have a contract with them. They've got to talk to us. So, but we were nice to them. I mean, nobody went away completely happy, which is how you know that the deal you did was right on, right? So, but we will continue that dialogue. We don't have complete control over the reconstruction of University intersection at first. That's Dottie, and we all know how Amanda feels about that. But we will be a part of the conversation about getting rid of those pork chops, again, making it more pedestrian friendly. So we'll be watching for those. There's a concept in the area plan of a gateway where if you drive down Spear and you see the country club gateways, you'll see the walls and the planters in the public realm that signify that that's the country club neighborhood. We're going to have some of that for Cherry Creek. We don't know exactly what it looks like, and we're not going to make that decision because it is going to be a collective decision. We're going to engage the Botanic Gardens. We're going to talk to people who are, world-class landscape architects. If we have some space that is given up by the pork chops, which are those speed lanes I use all the time on First, and we have a public realm where we can put something that says you are now entering Cherry Creek, not the shopping area, the neighborhood. What does it look like? How do we want it to read and feel? Who wants to plant flowers in that area? Who wants to be on committees that works to figure out, should it really be more artsy, modern? Should it be more like country club? I mean, there are so many things that we have yet to decide. And that's why this gives us the palette that we can now work on figuring out what do we want it to look like? And that will be a group effort. So I already talked about a little bit about construction traffic. I'm going to say a little bit more about that. Construction, good construction practices. There's an addendum to this agreement. And actually, Doug, why don't you go ahead and scroll through, keep scrolling a little more. This is what we submitted. Stop right here. On the website, these are direct links to all of the presentations where Cherry Creek West presented to you and to the steering committee. So if you want to look at those and get yourself up to speed about a lot of this, it's all right here for you to take a look at. And let's scroll a little bit further down. Attached to this, go ahead into the attachments.
That is it.
Oh, it's not up on the whole thing?
What do you want?
I just wanted the attachments, which would be the actual DCBA. It's okay. Well, you don't really have to
go to it. It's on the website. You can see the page.
It's on the website. There's a whole section right here. All this is here. The actual community, there it is, community benefit agreement. It looks like this.
4,000 pages of it.
And it's not that long. But it is comprehensive. And if you just scroll through this while I'm finishing this part of the conversation, at the end of this, we actually have a good construction practices mandate that they've agreed to follow. And as far as the current projects that are under construction and the horrible traffic going down Second, Linda and I actually met with the developers. We have a development agreement with that project too on Second and Adams. And they've agreed, first of all, they let us know when this traffic is going to be bad. Excavation is the worst because you have those big trucks coming in, filling up with dirt, moving. We've asked them, we always ask them, make the pain lessened by do it fast and get on with it. So what we have to, I have to do a little more of this is figure out who's doing what when. And then we'll try to put another link of this, like construction updates. And we'll put, and actually I think we are still gathering some names of people who want to know about those two big projects on the 200 block and 100 block. And so we can tell you, you're going to have 10 days of excavation. Here's when it's going to happen. Put your earplugs in. It's going to start early. We are trying to get them, and they actually agree. We try to get them back down on the first so that they're not loading on second and third. Sometimes that's all they can do, but we try to work with them. Those projects are not in the business district. If they're in the business district, the bid is very good about trying to help us make sure that we know when that happens. So together, it's not going to be easy when they rumble past your house, but we'll try to make it fast and as painless as possible. You know, I mean, we're going to have to live through this. So I know there are probably questions about Cherry Creek West. I do want you to know that I understand that not everybody agreed with this path that we took, and I respect that. But we really believe that this was headed to approval no matter what. And we wanted to get the best thing that we could get for our neighborhoods. So it is a beginning of a process. We have a seat at the table and we'll keep you all informed. So I think hopefully there's some at least feeling that, okay, you know, we're going to have to live through it, but there will be a nice green park over there that we can go, maybe hear a concert, you know, close to something. So but some of us may not live that long, but so let me go over a couple of other quick things that I think are good news. The parking. Parking, we talked about this several times. We have our parking permit system. They proposed a lot of changes. Annette over here, who's on our board, who's our treasurer, and who has been so committed on this with me. We have worked on this for 2.5 years together, going down, meeting with the city, and thanks to Amanda, she said, okay, in my office now. It's almost like, come on, kids, you know, don't make me come back there, in my office now. So she got the folks from Dottie after, if we could pull up our letter, actually the letter first. So this was our objection. It was updated in June. We came out to all of you. The board put little flyers on your doors. We asked for your information. We put it together. We filed this response. And if you scroll down a little bit more, Doug, you'll see that we listed several issues that we wanted. And this is also up on the website. So we wanted them to not do what they were planning to do, which is one big area permit. We wanted them to not take away our restricted permit only parking. We wanted them to leave more of that in place and actually to think about even expanding, because we've had some residents talk about how some of the UC health workers are parking in unrestricted areas. So I'm happy to report, and you can look through this. You can keep scrolling a little bit, Doug. I think we ended up with several other objections, but here's where we ended up. We met today, and there's still a few modifications, but essentially they said, okay, we're gonna leave at least 10 permit-only spaces on the 300 and 400 blocks. It will start going less as you get to that 500 block. They just don't see as much use right there. They're doing 2 area permits, the blue and then the yellow. So if you're going to get your pass, you'll be able to park anywhere in those blocks or anywhere in the yellow if you're in those blocks. The concern was that everyone's going to park right over as close as they can to Whole Foods or, you know, where the bid is. So they separate those into 2 areas. The little red, they left at least 10 spaces. The red is the restricted. They added more 2-hour. The rest will be 2-hour, and anybody with a permit can park in 2-hour without leaving, 2-hour without leaving in 2 hours, right? You can just put your card in if you're permitted. We've asked them to move the blue area to encompass even more of the blocks to the east. So they are looking at that, and we think that they're favorable to doing that. So I think that the bottom line is they listened to us. They actually met with us several times, heard us, made changes to their program. This does not mean you're going to get 2 passes like we used to get in the old days. That ship sailed. You're going to get 1 flex pass. And for all of you who have your car registered to the house that you own in Florida or Texas or wherever, I know several, you're only going to get a flex pass. You're not going to get a pass to park on the street. You got to register your car. That's always been the rule. They just didn't enforce that for a while. And then the other thing we talked about a lot today was the issue of enforcement. We can have all of these rules, but if nobody enforces it, we're not going to be able to get the benefits of what we negotiated for. So 311, use it. You know, when she said, I want everyone to call something in, if there's somebody that's been there for 4 hours on your block, and you take a picture of it, and you call it in to 311. Because then, what does it do? It adds all those, you know, all of us whiners who leave our messages and say, you gotta come around here because these cars have been here 3 and 4 hours. So that's one way to address it. I actually have seen a little uptick in enforcement. It is difficult. If anybody's really bored, retirement, it looks like they need some more folks for enforcement. You could probably get a job pretty easily. I don't know what the benefits are like, but hey. So there might be some questions about all of this. It's a little after 8. We still have a couple other quick things to touch on. I do want to say, if anybody went to Sip and Savor, it was phenomenal. And thank you for the team that put it on. Thank you for the people that joined us. Thank you for the weather. It was amazing. So, and we raised a lot of money. How much, Dale? $22,000 for Urban Peak. So, I mean, this is amazing. Thank you, and Jane and the other people at Lawn Committee, thank you again for that. We do have new bylaws. They're not really, we didn't overhaul them. We overhauled them in 19. But there were some things there that we thought we needed to tweak, including adding some term limits. Because there is always a need for fresh ideas for people to get involved. They don't have to be on the board. You can be on committees, get to know it. If you like it, get on the board. So that is something new. And we have a fail-safe in case nobody wants to serve, in which case, you know, you can keep some of us old dogs on for a while longer. But I mean, the goal is to get more people informed, engaged, and involved, right? So help us do that. Now we have term limits, so we have to do it, right? So that's a good thing. And last but not least, we are, this is our annual meeting. We are changing the guard. I will be stepping down as president, and I would like to bring up our incoming president and use this as a relay to pass it over to her. So let's welcome our new president. Hold on.
Like you promised me to still attach that I pick anything to do with zoning. So it's my privilege tonight as a person on our nominating committee to bring you the names that we're going to suggest for our next 3-year term. They don't know I'm going to do this. So they'll probably not be happy with my first meeting, but I'm going to call them up here. Dick, please come up. Kate and Babs. These are our 3 returning board members. Now, these are just the returning ones, nominated. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them. So Dick and she talked about does our lectures in our social clubs. So that's kind of the heart and soul of our community. That's why we live here, to be engaged. So Dick's running again for a 3-year term, so he'll be one of the ones you'll vote on tonight. Been on our board, she's been on membership, on Diane's Out, on
come this way.
Walk This Way. Walk Just a minute. She's done several, and starting tomorrow, and she'll be our coordinator for our Diane's Out program. So she's looking for great restaurants in the neighborhood. So thanks to Kate. And then our next one is Babs. Babs is up again for a 3-year term. She's on zoning. She's on the steering committee that Lou highlighted before. And she's taking on a new role as coordinating Spring Flame. And so watch for all 3 of these to be involved at a high level. And then I want to introduce to you 2 new board members. I'm so excited to be sat in the front row. This is Ursula. Oh, in front of the camera, sorry. I didn't worry about the camera. Ursula's going to take on a really strong role, kind of a broad scope on communication. So she's going to be working with Leslie with our newsletter, with communication, with social media, with Facebook, with ideas. The list goes on and on and on. So welcome to Ursula. And then Laurel is our big addition and nomination that we're working with you tonight. She's got a huge job. She's going to be the chair of business outreach and business membership. Because the more we work with the businesses and work together with the total community, that makes us all stronger. So as a member of the nominating committee, we're bringing those 5 names forward. All in favor of 5 nominations, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. They start working tomorrow. What am I saying?
Ask them at home on Zoom. Please put your thumbs up.
Those of you at home that are looking, watching, please raise your hand.
Just ask them to agree in the chat.
Well, agree on in the chat. I truly want to say that I'm excited about this new role. I also want to introduce you to Ernie, who's our new vice president. I know Chelsea can stand up. Dale, secretary, please stand up. Other board members, Kevin here. What other board members, please stand up. It's nice to know who's behind all that. And God, oh, and Leslie, and Lisa. All board members, please stand up. Particularly people, when you see them on the street, grab them. And talk to them about what we're talking about, what we want to do. With that, you're closing the meeting with you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. That's it. Thank you. All right, girlfriend. Hey, chapter 2. Here we go.